The Pratfall Effect. You've spent your entire life trying to look like you have it all together, but being perfect is actually a social death sentence. There is a psychological cheat code in your brain that says we find highly competent people intimidating, until they fail. If you're at the top of your game and you spill your coffee or trip on the rug, you don't look like an idiot. You look like a human, and that's when people actually start to like you. This is known as the Pratfall Effect. Social psychologist Elliot Aronson proved this back in 1966 when he recorded actors answering trivia questions. He found that when a superior person, someone who answered 92% of the questions correctly, spilled a cup of coffee on themselves, their likability scores went through the roof. Before the spill, they were perceived as competent but cold and distant. The mistake made them more appealing. The lesson here is that people don't want to be around someone perfect. They want to be around someone they can relate to. To use this cheat, wait until you've established a bit of authority or competence in a room, then intentionally make a small mistake, like dropping a pen or stumbling over your words. By revealing a tiny flaw in your exterior, you lower the other person's guard and make them feel safe enough to like you. Just make sure you don't go too far. A minor mistake is a cheat code, but a huge blunder, like accidentally deleting the entire company database or showing up an hour late to a wedding, doesn't make you relatable. It just makes you look like a jerk. The Benjamin Franklin Effect. You probably think that to make someone like you, you need to do them a favor, but that's exactly how you end up being the person everyone uses and nobody respects. The real cheat code is the opposite. You need to ask them for a favor. It sounds backwards, but due to a glitch in human logic called cognitive dissonance, their brain will literally force them to like you just to justify why they helped you in the first place. Benjamin Franklin famously won over a hostile rival by asking to borrow a rare book from the man's library. In 1969, researchers Jecker and Landy took this idea to the lab, having a researcher ask participants to return prize money because the department was supposedly running low. The participants who gave the money back ended up rating the researcher much higher than those who were allowed to keep it. Their brains essentially ran a quick calculation. I'm helping this person, and I don't help people I hate, therefore, I must like them. The same logic applies to anyone you meet. Ask for something small and easy, like asking them to pass you a napkin, recommend a good place to eat, or hold your spot in line for a second. It's a micro-investment that makes them subconsciously committed to your friendship without them even being aware. Spontaneous trait transference. Every time you complain about your lazy coworker or your unreliable friend, the person listening doesn't just judge them, they judge you. The traits you use to describe other people end up stuck to your own reputation. Call someone else a genius, and people start assuming you're smart too. Call them a slacker, and you become the negative one in the room. Psychologists call this spontaneous trait transference. Because our memories are associative, we tend to link the traits being described with the person doing the describing, regardless of who the story is actually about. If you tell a group that your neighbor is an amazing person, the listener's brains are essentially tagging amazing onto you too. If you want people to like you, make it a habit to point out the best qualities in others. It's not just being nice, it's effectively stealing those traits for yourself through the listener's subconscious bias. It's one of the few times gossip actually works in your favor. The eye color method. You've probably been told to make eye contact, but nobody ever tells you exactly how long is enough before it starts getting creepy. There's a specific cheat code that takes all the guesswork out of it and ensures you hold your gaze just long enough to seem genuinely interested without making the other person want to call security. Maintaining a steady gaze for roughly 60 to 70% of a conversation is the sweet spot for building trust and making people feel valued. If you look away too soon, you seem distracted or uninterested. If you never look away, you seem intense and off-putting. Both kill likability instantly. To get this right every time, make it your goal to notice the exact shade of the other person's eyes the moment you start talking to them. This creates a natural, intentional look that lasts about 3 seconds, exactly the amount of time needed to register as warm and engaged. Once you've determined the color, you can look away for a beat, then return. It's the simplest way to make someone feel like you're fully present, and that's what makes people like you. The Pygmalion Effect. Did you know you can plant a personality trait into a stranger just by telling them they already have it? If you tell someone they seem like an incredibly patient person right before you ask them for a difficult favor, they are now psychologically trapped. They will go out of their way to be patient just to prove your label right. This is a high-level cheat code that feels like a compliment but works like a set of handcuffs. This stems from the Pygmalion Effect, where high expectations lead to improved performance. In a classic 1968 study, researchers told teachers that certain students were academically gifted and destined for success. Even though the students were chosen at random, the teachers treated them differently, and the kids actually ended up with higher IQ scores by the end of the year. People have a desperate need for internal consistency. If you label someone as friendly or generous, they will go out of their way to act like that in order to avoid the mental discomfort of contradicting the identity you just handed them. If you want someone to like you, say something like, "You're one of the most genuinely kind people I've ever met." You've now set a trap they will gladly walk into just to keep their self-image intact. The cocktail party effect. There is one specific sound that can bypass someone's conscious filter and light up their brain like a Christmas tree, and that's their own name. This is known as the cocktail party effect, the phenomenon where you can be at a crowded party, completely tuned into one conversation, and still instantly hear your name mentioned across the room. A 2006 brain imaging study published in the European Journal of Neuroscience found that when people hear their own name, it triggers a unique response in the midfrontal cortex, the area that handles your sense of self and identity. You have a specialized neural network that flags your name as a priority over every other word, and your brain stops what it's doing to focus on the person who said it. You can use that to your advantage, but if you use someone's name too much, you sound like you're trying to sell a used car. Instead, use what's known as the bookend method. Use their name once at the start of the interaction to grab their focus, and once more when you reach a natural point in the conversation, like right after they tell a joke or share a win. That's a great point, Kevin. Feels like a genuine acknowledgement of their value rather than a scripted social tactic, and their brain associates that hit of dopamine with your face. The strategic pause. Most people are so terrified of silence that they spend every conversation just waiting for their turn to speak, making them look anxious and desperate. The most powerful cheat code in a high-stakes conversation isn't what you say, it's the 2 seconds of dead air you leave after someone else finishes. In social psychology, the speed of your response is often linked to your perceived status. The person who jumps in immediately is seen as eager to please, while the person who pauses is seen as confident and in control. The strategic pause does two things at once. It signals that you are processing what the other person said, rather than just reacting to it, and it gives them space to gather their thoughts without being interrupted. When someone finishes a sentence, count to 3 in your head before you open your mouth. You'll find they often keep talking, revealing more information and feeling a deeper connection to you simply because you gave them room to breathe. It's the easiest way to be the most likable person in the room without having to say anything impressive. The pronoun switch. If you want to move someone from being a stranger to being on your team, you need to stop using the words I and you. There is a linguistic cheat code buried in plural pronouns that creates an instant in-group bias. By simply switching to we and us during a shared task, even if you just met 5 minutes ago, you make someone feel like you're already on the same side. Psychologist Megan Robbins studied thousands of conversations and found that people who use we and us pronouns are perceived as warmer, more cooperative, and significantly more likable. Humans are tribal animals. Our brains are constantly sorting people into us versus them, and using inclusive language subconsciously signals that you belong in their group. If you're trying to solve a problem with someone, don't say, "I think you should do this." Say, "How are we going to tackle this?" You just reframed the entire interaction from you telling them what to do to you working together. Their brain stops seeing you as an outsider and starts treating you as someone they already like and trust. The advice effect. Asking for advice feels like admitting you don't know what you're doing, so most of us try to avoid it. But Harvard researchers found that it doesn't make you look weak or stupid, it actually makes people like you more. The reason it works is because asking for advice is the ultimate compliment. You're telling someone their experience matters and their opinion is worth hearing, which makes them feel valued and important. When someone gives you advice, they become emotionally invested in you because helping you makes them feel good about themselves. It creates an instant bond that turns a stranger into someone who's now rooting for you. You don't actually have to need advice to ask for it. If you want someone to like you, find something they're knowledgeable about and ask them to explain it. The advice itself is irrelevant. What matters is you're giving them a reason to feel good about themselves while talking to you, and that's what makes you likable. The follow-up question. Most people ask, "How are you?" and don't even wait for the answer. They're expecting you to say fine so they can start talking about themselves. This is why most conversations feel like two people taking turns giving monologues instead of actually connecting. And it's the main reason people walk away without remembering a single thing you said. Harvard researchers studied over 300 online conversations and found that people who ask follow-up questions are significantly more likable than those who pivot the conversation back to their own experiences. It works because it shows you aren't just waiting for your turn to respond. You are actually interested in the details of their life. When they tell you they went to the beach, don't say, "Oh, cool, I went to the mountains." Instead, acknowledge what they said and then dig one layer deeper. The beach is great this time of year. Did you manage to actually unplug, or were you checking emails the whole time? By asking about the feeling behind the fact, you force them out of their scripted social responses and into a real connection. People like the person who made them feel heard, not the person who had the most interesting story. The Similarity-Attraction Effect. Opposites attract is a lie that's currently ruining your social life. The reality is we are biologically wired to like people who are exactly like us. But the broad stuff like, "we're both from Texas," is boring and doesn't build a bond. Theodore Newcomb's classic boarding house study found that students formed the deepest friendships with those who shared specific values and niche interests, not just surface-level similarities like living in the same city or working in the same industry. This is the Similarity-Attraction Effect. The more obscure the shared interest, the stronger the bond. If you both went to the same college, that's nice but forgettable. If you both collect vintage typewriters or have a weird obsession with 90s music, that creates an instant "nobody else gets this but us" connection that feels way more personal. When you meet someone new, skip the boring small talk and dig for something specific you both care about. Ask about hobbies, weird interests, or unpopular opinions instead of what they do for work. The moment you find that one obscure thing you share, lean into it hard. That's what turns a polite conversation into an actual friendship. Emotional contagion. You think your mood is private, but your brain is actually leaking your energy onto everyone around you through a system of mirror neurons. If you walk into a room feeling defensive or bored, you are literally infecting the people you want to impress with those exact feelings. This is emotional contagion. It's a primitive survival mechanism that allowed our ancestors to share a sense of fear or excitement instantly to avoid predators. In the modern world, it means that the vibe you bring to a table is often the exact vibe you'll get back. If you want people to be warm and open with you, you have to bring that energy first. Before you enter a room, take 5 seconds to reset your mood. When you meet someone, lead with a high-energy, genuine greeting. Their mirror neurons will fire in response, forcing them to reflect your state. You aren't waiting for people to like you. You're a social virus spreading the one infection that makes you instantly likable. Those 12 cheat codes are the difference between hoping people like you and ensuring they have no other choice. Knowing how they work is one thing, but having the nerve to try them out is what actually changes your life.